Hi guys, no more shout outs at the moment as I'm making several videos one on top of the other, so do have a look at the videos that have been uploaded if you are expecting one. If you haven't had a shout out yet, then pop me a comment in the comment section below and I'll add you to the next video. So this is a video that I made that's currently up on my old channel that I've finally got around to remaking, and this is basically going to talk you through Katy Perry's Raw video. Now this is not one of the ones that I study with my class, so please bear in mind that that's, I'm not going to necessarily have all of the information that you guys need, so do trust in your teachers as well. I will be coming back and doing more information on Katy Perry and some of the other artists after we finish studying Luther. So we start this video with an opening frame that's designed to make the music video look like a painting or a cartoon. The details of the surroundings are blurred and kind of softened so that it's a little bit more informal and more relaxed, but the colour palette that we have is quite bright even though it's muted. Now when the title of the music video appears, it's displayed with a caption underneath that you can't see in the screenshot there, but it does say a motion theory adventure filmed in jungle scope. Now this has a few historical conventions of 1950s films that first began using cinemascope, which is sort of an idea that's played upon here. You can see that in things like Disney's Lady and the Tramp, which uses again similar muted colours to the ones that we've got here. Now, as part of a transition from that opening frame into the music video itself, the title screen has quite aggressive visuals. So across Raw, we have the title being clawed apart, and then we have this overlay burning away to reveal the narrative that's actually happening in the video below. Now the establishing shot shows a bird's eye view that reveals this wrecked aeroplane. Perry and her partner are stumbling out with torn clothing, but they seem to be unharmed and fairly well put together, which requires us to suspend our disbelief. Suspending disbelief is basically where you watch a particular thing or you look at a particular thing and in your brain you're like, well, that's not likely to happen, that's clearly not what would happen here, but we have to sort of put that to one side to follow along with the narrative and carry along and believe the narrative. Now Perry's partner has dress codes which are very similar to characters such as Indiana Jones, so we've got a level of intertextuality here, but it also creates a kind of hyper-masculine persona around his character. However, we then see more modern representations of men when he uses a smartphone to take selfies. And again, this is very relatable to the demographic and to Katy Perry's fan base. It also acts as product placement for the Nokia Lumia 1020, which suggests a level of synergy or at the very least celebrity endorsement between Katy Perry and that particular mobile. Now at the beginning we have a lot of mid shots used to show the very formal dress codes of both Katy Perry and her partner. They're very similar to traditional 1950s wear, which again links back to that historical context. The leopard print scarf's particularly fitting given that they're in the jungle setting, but it's also something that's been used by her main competitor Taylor Swift in the video for Wildest Dreams, which again has the same time frame and dress codes despite the fact that it was released at a later date. Now we see Katy Perry seeming very daunted and disorientated from the crash, which is what we would expect, but her partner is really over-exaggerated. Now this could be a representation for the fans who mob celebrities every day, such as Katy Perry, and it might encourage her audiences to behave in a more appropriate way around her, because the male character seems very unlikable here. Now Katy Perry is represented as a very stereotypical damsel in distress, but she can also be viewed as very subservient and weak-willed, particularly when he dumps all of his bags on her, and so we could almost interpret it as her being controlled by her partner. We have a fade to black used to show the transition of time as the two of them move deeper into the forest to explore. Now initially the narrative codes appear to be quite clear. The male is representing the hero in Prop's character theory, and the current state of the narrative is disruption when we consider it against Todorov's narrative theory. This is emphasised by the fact that the close-ups that we get of Perry's face highlight how scared she is, but again her makeup and hair are still flawless, which may be a decision made by her marketing team to encourage fans to follow her style, and again is another area where we have to sort of suspend our disbelief. Now the male character is continually represented as clumsy and arrogant. Despite the fact that he takes the lead in the exploration, he also references characters from action films by doing so, but he's not as carefully put together. We also get tension and suspense when the tiger basically takes out him and takes out that sort of male character. This might not make us feel sympathy because the guy has been designed to be irritating, but it might give us sympathy for Katy Perry, who's now in even more peril because she's by herself. Again, when we consider the video as a whole, this could also be classed as the disruption stage of Todorov's theory. Now, the camera angle adopts a point of view shot where we're almost put in the tiger's perspective as he's hunting Katy Perry. And we add to this peril when we see characters like the alligator who appears from nowhere, but all of these dangers are conventional to the jungle setting. Again, stereotypical female fears are played upon when the spider lands on Katy Perry. She's also seen sitting down, which emphasises her legs, but it could also represent that nursery rhyme Little Miss Muffet. Either way, this interpretation adds to the representation of Katy Perry as a whole at the moment as a very weak female. Now we get a bird's eye view, which again makes Katy Perry seem more small and vulnerable and again a sort of weak female. But it also shows the setting and surroundings to show the vast expanse that Katy Perry's in. And again, this would add emphasis to her predicament. And you can sort of see in that middle frame, transitioning through to the right-hand frame, how the lights are designed to represent eyes, and therefore the idea that there are hundreds of creatures in the forest all designed to attack Katy Perry. Although having said that, they're not overly scary. Instead, they sort of blend with the reflective light which we can see on Katy Perry in that centre frame. The reflected light from the water makes the scene seem more magical, particularly when those lights turn into fireflies, which is a special effect that would be added in sort of post-production. Again, it adds to the femininity of Katy Perry because it references films like The Little Mermaid. We then get more Disney films referenced when her reflection becomes the tiger, shows that she's turning sort of into somebody who's stronger, and again this would be a sort of turning point in the narrative. So again, it would sort of reinforce this idea that there is a stronger side to women and that Katy Perry just needs to sort of look inside herself and find it. It also links to lyrics, I Got the Eye of the Tiger, which again references this 1980s song by Survivor, and again the visuals are very, very similar to Disney films like The Lion King, for example. Perry's movement becomes very animalistic. She's on all fours. This is a common method of sexualizing females, but in this instance is more of a literal representation of the tiger side to Katy Perry. Now the fireflies create an image of the tiger outside of the reflection, again linking to this idea of the Lion King when Mufasa appears to Simba in order to empower him, much the same way as Katy Perry is literally about to be empowered, which we start to see in that middle frame. So we have a transition going from fading to white, going from a fade to black to a fade to white. Now a fade to black can be very ominous and very dark because obviously there's a lot of shadows in there, whereas here this fade to white connotes purity and happiness. This is emphasised by the high key lighting. It's a very beautiful representation of the jungle, and so we've got a contrast between what we've seen before to what we've seen here. We also have a contrast between nature and man when the monkey is holding out the stiletto. More enigma is raised when the demographic wonder where Katy Perry is, but in the right-hand frame we realise that she's right there, and she's using these survivalist tropes where she's fashioning a spear out of her high-heeled shoe. Now this is very similar to the representation of characters in films such as Tarzan, so again more Disney references here. Also, we've got Katy Perry's dress codes changing and her torn shirt now revealing more skin, so sexualising her again in a more dramatic way as we see here. So despite the fact that the video and the song itself has quite feminist ideals, the video really does sexualise Katy Perry. So her torn shirt and sort of lack of skirt here show more of her skin, so we can interpret this using Laura Mulvey's male gaze theory. Again, it's a very common convention of female pop videos, but it means that if you're looking at this from a negotiated or oppositional reading, it's quite difficult to marry the two up together. Now, Katy Perry's makeup has remained natural throughout the video to relate to the natural surroundings, but it could also add to this feminist reading that we need to embrace our natural beauty without feeling like we need to conform. Having said that, we then get again that contrast between this feminist reading and again sexualizing Katy Perry. because we've got that intertextual link to herbal essence adverts when she's showering. Now, in one of the herbal essence adverts, there's a similar monkey to the one that we saw at the beginning of the video, and the monkey in the herbal essence adverts comments on the woman who is showering and making these sort of orgasmic noises at the same time. I'll pop a link to that video in the description box so you can watch it and see the comparison for yourself. However, when the shower is revealed to be an elephant, comic relief is used, and this is emphasised through the use of its tusks as hangers for Katy Perry's clothes. Now, the monkey furthers the comic relief by covering its eyes, but it's also anthropomorphised because it displays these sort of human traits. Now, this could represent Katy Perry's ability to become more dominant over her surroundings because she's causing this reaction within nature and within the animals themselves. We then get more feminist readings again where we see the contrast between how she was at the beginning to now. So she's now wrestling with the alligator, and although her strength and confidence has developed physically, she's now taken on a sort of traditional motherly role through the idea that she's sort of cleaning the teeth of the alligator, again providing a sort of comic relief as well. Now, the close-up of Katy Perry uses direct mode of address, so that would create a connection directly with us as the audience because it appears like she's looking directly into the camera. Now, coupled with the first-person narrative of her lyrics makes it feel like she's talking directly to us, which again is likely to mean that this has more of an impact when it's released and viewed by audiences. We then get enigma created through the fact that Katy Perry is entering the dark cave. She's represented as being very pure and innocent through her white clothes, which stand out against the black background. And we then have indirect mode of address with shocked facial features to create enigma. We wonder what she's looking at off screen that's causing such a reaction. Now, the historic cave drawings that are shown here link back to historical context. This style of drawing has been found all the way across the globe, but special effects are used to make them come to life. Now, given the link made previously about Katy Perry and the tiger, this scene could represent Katy Perry standing up to those who want to bring her down, as well as literally showing her standing up to a tiger. Now, eventually, the person rises above, and this is also a feminist reading that promotes female empowerment. Now, despite the feminist reading seen earlier, Katy Perry emerges from the cave in incredibly sexualised clothing. Despite the clear link to the jungle, her cleavage and legs are really emphasised. And again, despite the fact that she's showing her feminine traits through the flowers on her skirt, this really is a completely sexualised sort of view of her. Particularly when we consider the stances that she takes, such as the wide-angle shot in the right-hand side of the screen here. So this wide-angle shot has less of a high-angle view. The camera pans downwards towards Katy Perry, showing how she's changed from being vulnerable to being powerful, strong and in charge. We also get further intertextuality with Tarzan because she uses the vine to swing, but it provides very little towards the narrative given how much of a story we've had so far, so perhaps here it's just emphasising Katy Perry's presence. Now, in the mid shot that we have in the centre of the screen, Katy Perry poses in a stereotypically masculine stance. This adds to the feminist reading because she's taking over typically masculine traits to prove that she is as strong as any man. But again, sexualised through the high key lighting, which is placed directly on her chest. We've also got selective focus, where the background is blurred compared to Katy Perry, which would add emphasis to her as a person. The over-the-shoulder shot that we see emphasises the beauty of the setting, while the fact that Katy Perry is at the top of the tree on the right-hand side shows that she's on top in the jungle and is more powerful. Now, we then have more animals in the forest, which add to the mise-en-scène of the scene. Again, common conventions for the setting, but further enigma because we don't know what's significant about them and we also don't know where they're looking. What they are looking at is a sense of relatability that we get in the centre frame, where Katy Perry lures the tiger into the enclosure using what appears to be a cat toy fashioned out of jungle, sort of, I don't know, debris, I guess. So this provides comic relief because it's not something that we would expect, but the animals helping Katy Perry could be a reference, again, to more Disney films such as Tarzan, as we mentioned earlier, or even to Snow White, where the birds and the animals are sort of helping her to clean. A key scene from the video, though, is the shot between Katy Perry and the tiger. This is very reminiscent of the cave drawings that we saw previously, and they are sort of facing off towards each other. Now this could be a representation of an argument, with Katy Perry sort of speaking her mind in order to gain empowerment rather than staying quiet like we saw when she was sort of under the control of the male at the beginning of the video. Now we know that she comes out on top because she's effectively sitting on a throne in the next scene that we see. We've also got lots of detail in that shot, such as the hat that her partner wore at the beginning of the video, showing that she's sort of conquered him, she's conquered the jungle. As well as it being a stereotypically masculine pose and showing her empowerment, it does also sexualize her. Her legs are apart and there's a lot of her body on show, so it could be considered rather sexual. But the tiger then provides a sort of comic relief so that we don't focus on that too much. The play on words on its name tag, which reads Katy Perry, is sort of like Katy Perry. So again, we've got a sense of branding here. Perry has sort of calmed and tamed a tiger and placed her name on it by basically sort of branding it and showing ownership. We also get shots that are very similar to ones that we've had at the beginning of the video, suggesting that this is a sort of cyclical narrative. Perry provides celebrity endorsement to the Nokia phone, using it to take selfies with the monkey. It shows her ease and how comfortable she is now within herself and within her own skin. However, further feminine traits are shown when she uses the berries to create a lip stain. This does very little to change the stereotypically feminine portrayal of her. And we then sort of have this final turning point within the video as a whole. So Katy Perry wakes up on the plane, and it uses this common convention of narratives and storytelling to bring the actual narrative and story to a close. Initially, we think that what we've seen has all been a dream and that Katy Perry was sort of dreaming about it. She's going to wake up and go back to her old ways. But we end a video where she walks out of the wreck of the plane and it's been changed to represent a home. So we get further stereotypically feminine traits in the idea that women are homemakers. Now, I know that was a really quick run through of this video, but hopefully it just provides you guys who are studying Katy Perry a chance to break down the video as a whole. We have loads of key terms in this video, so go through each of these, highlight the ones that you don't know and write a definition for them so that you're starting to learn a few more key terms that you can put into your writing. If you have any questions about this or anything else, then please pop them in the comments section down below. If you haven't already, please subscribe, hit the button below and you'll get a shout out in the next video. You can also get in touch with me through Twitter at media_revision, and I also have Instagram, even though I'm not posting too much on there at the moment. Check back throughout the week, guys, as while all the craziness is going on at the moment, I will be posting more videos as often as I can.